Hi everyone, I'm Mughilan. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. Right, so before I just start, I just want to very quickly a show of hands of how many people have actually flown drones. Perfect. About 20% of them, right? I guess drones has been around for about a decade now. I guess everybody has seen drones. Where you guys have seen drones? More in concerts, wedding halls, concerts. Any other place anyone else seen drones? Yeah, I heard concerts. I guess I heard weddings. So actually, drones have been everywhere, right? In the last decade or so, we've been seeing it almost in every place in touching our lives. We don't just see it. It's there in mines. It's there in, we've heard of it in Operations Indoor. Right, a decade ago, people were thinking, oh my God, drones, we don't know what to do with the tech, right? We have heard it only from the American standpoint, predators and so on, but very recently we have seen it being used in India, in our home turf. Anyway, quickly, right? So I wanted to ask everyone, what do you think is common amongst all of these work sites, right? I mean, sites of sorts. I have a mine, I have a utility park, I have a national border, and some power lines. What do you think all of them have in common? Surveillance, all are secular areas, isolated, dangerous. Yeah, they need great. So all of you are right. So all of them happen to have people wanting to cross over, right, and steal something or be there, right? And almost all private or Indian infrastructure or global infrastructure has great amount of value, right? And we have seen so many times over a period of our, our journeys on this planet that so many people have intruded borders, right? And it's become the biggest, trouble for all of us as a country and as private owners of work sites and things like that. So why is it actually a problem? It's a problem because of the fact that we really don't know, you know, how many blind spots are there. The boundaries are too long. It is absolutely impossible. You might, we have had cases where people have put in so many security guards. We have the largest, army in the world, right? We have the largest security forces across the board in the country, right? And we still have this problem, right? And that's simply because we use, unfortunately, all we have is our own intelligence, right? Till date, right? And we also have, and we have a big scale across hundreds of kilometers of this thing. This is the problem, right? More or less. So okay, so this we all know, right? So what are we doing different, right? What, given 2025, given we have AI, given whatever, what can we do, right? So that's mostly the context. That's mostly what I'm going to talk about, right? So we believe that this is a quick video, right, of what we kind of did, right? I'll just quickly play it, and then you can see it, right? So we have a chat bot, right? And that's actually a drone which just took off, right? And what we managed to do, right, in a particular work site, in a solar site at around 3 a.m. in the morning, was intruders trying to pick up, cable, and they were, happily scooting away in their motorcycle. And what we could do was very quickly send this drone, follow them for about 4 to 5 kilometers before they actually got caught, right? And all of this happened quite autonomously, right? So very quickly, right? Let me just go back. Yeah, thanks. So this again in a small video, right? We click start surveillance. The drone takes off, right? And it's almost like anybody here can click a button, right? And you have one drone take off remotely on your site. It autonomously captures, goes around, detects, people who are intruders and follows them, right? So that much has been achieved so far, right? Um, which basically means what, right? Which basically means that today you can, what you see in helicopters and actual speed chases in Hollywood movies is actual reality, which can be done in any of your, possible work sites, right? Or borders, or if you have a particular, region where you want to monitor it regularly, right? So that's what is on-demand security for you, right? Across hundreds of acres, hundreds of kilometers, right? So, uh, so very quickly, I'll just talk about us, right, and then go back into the story, right? So we are Skylark drones. We've been working across sectors, across all large enterprises, right, here in India. We've been around for about a decade, right? We've help in the drone regulations back in the day, right? And we have kind of monitoring 500 plus work sites across different activities, not only security, and that's about us. So I'll just very quickly, introduce to you a new concept, right? We believe we are in an era where we are going to have more digital field officers, right? Today we have, field officers. We kind of equip them with, things like cameras, phones, maybe anything which measurement devices which you want, right? This is how we imagine our field officer, right, today, right? I want to introduce to you guys a concept of a digital field officer, something which is not the same, right? So what does a digital field officer actually have, right? These are the 4 components of it, right? Number one, it's almost like an autonomous drone. And these drones are cheap, by the way. It's not too expensive. Don't worry too much. It's not something which only the military can afford or the defense could afford, right? This is something what you could have seen in the wedding of sorts, right? We have remote agents. These are again complete software stack. Nothing again extremely complicated, right? We have memory and we have an orchestrator, right? Again, completely fully software, right? So with just a software stack and a drone which you have seen in weddings and concerts, right? You can create a field officer completely, which can do a lot of tasks for you, right? So what tasks, I will get to it, right? But before that, this is how autonomous flights actually happen. This is actually a docking station. This is actually a company which is building hardware, great hardware, by the way. We are localizing them in India, right? So the drone actually takes off from a dock, from a station where it gets charged repeatedly, right? So how does it actually work, right? So essentially we have this kind of a device which can, it's bunch of sensors, don't worry about it. It kind of docks into that box, right? So you take off, it comes back and falls into that box autonomously, right? So that kind of enables you to do this multiple times, right, over and over and again, without a human being actually being there on site, right? You don't actually need physically to be there. That's what you would have seen in concerts and wedding halls. You would have seen a nice pilot sitting next to you or operating a drone. That is no longer needed, right? So you have this kind of a device which can potentially host this drone of sorts, right? Very quickly. Yeah, so other than that, we have all these simple stacks, right? Complicated in a traditional sense, but we have some amount of edge processing because all these things have compute. Drones are currently stupid, but they can, with a limited amount of GPUs on the box, you can actually do edge processing. We have some cloud processing where you can process information on the cloud, which will convert images into maps and so on. But more than anything else, that was more than anything else, what all of this simple, software plus drones can actually do is can change your work sites, right? So what does that mean, right? So again, quickly coming back, we know that field officers use our kind of collect information basis, what tools they have. That is basically you have, they have their eyes, they have their, surveying equipment, they have their measurement tools, etc. Right? Drones actually carry a lot more sensors, right? You can have cameras, you can have thermal imaging, you can have LiDAR, you can have, hyperspectral cameras, you can have whatever you want, right? That kind of helps, kind of changes the paradigm because you don't need, you definitely don't need a human, or you're not limited by your own eyesight, or you're not limited by the distance what you can see, right? So that's why drones are much more superior than ourselves of sorts, right? And that's one of the reasons why I think they will replace the way work sites are being governed today. So today, this is how the work sites are being governed, right? We currently have people who are doing this. We actually make reports, right? If any of you guys are working in enterprises, you have seen people making Excel sheets. You have seen people calling each other and saying that, what's happening in my site today, right? What is happening in my solar farm today? What is happening in my mine today, right? Have I actually produced, X amount of, ore, or am I generated so much of electricity? How many of you actually called people, asked for status of anything which is remote in your work site today? Anybody who has the privilege? Okay, no one. So unfortunately, I had to, right? Every single time something goes on field, right? I actually had to pick up the phone, call somebody on field, and ask them, what is the status of my construction today, right? Is my construction actually happening on time? Not happening on time, right? Is the guy actually come? Is the construction labor actually come on site? Not come on site, right? These are common questions we all ask unintuitively to somebody who's remote on a field, right? And we actually pick up the phone and make 30 calls. We all have apps. We all have construction management software. None of us would have seen it. We'd have seen a PDF on our WhatsApp, right? On status or some image coming on WhatsApp. That is how we have been operating so far, right? So with a digital field officer, this entire thing changes, right? What changes, right? So once you have a drone in the air and you have this kind of an agent, right, which will govern your work site, automatically you just ask your software what is the progress on field, right? The drone will take off. It will actually go do this data gathering, right? It'll come back and give you a report saying that this is the status on field, right? This is how much construction has actually happened on field, right? This is how much mining has actually happened in a mine, right? So some of these things can now be completely automated thanks to this, right? Very similar use case, right? Where suppose you have a sensor on field and say that, if a CCTV camera actually detects, intruder, should I run or should I send a drone there first, right? So for all practical purposes, you can send a drone there first, right? It'll actually possibly collect evidence more than you running with your cell phone, right? So some of these things are now possible, and we have actually implemented some of these things. That's what I want to show you, right? And that, because of doing this, what happens is you kind of remove that entire human intelligence level of actual reporting, report generation, and so on and so forth, right? You just pick up, you want on-demand intelligence. You don't know what is happening on field. You don't have resources to collect data. You ask your software or a chatbot saying, please let me know what is happening on field today, right? And then you get a report saying that this is what is happening. So you generally don't need to pick up your phone and actually call somebody on field and ask them what's the status, right? Um, I'll just give you a couple of examples, right, on what we have done so far, so that it's easy for everybody to digest. So this is a mining site, right? And on chat, you can actually see people actually asking, is there a compliance issue, right? And what they're doing is actually asking about deviations in their mine. Is somebody excavated something more than they are supposed to have excavated, right? And we once the drone goes, picks up the data, it kind of generates the insight for them, right? It actually says, okay, these are number of non-compliant mines are there. These are number of compliance issue your mine actually has, right? Again, all the data for this was autonomously gathered. All the intelligence was autonomously processed, right? And you just get a report on whether your actual worksite was actually compliant or not, right? The other example is another one for a solar park, right? So solar parks has a lot of defects, right? So this is actually a solar park, and we are actually chatting with it and saying that, can you please generate, a report for me on performance of solar parks, like are my actual panels actually generating enough energy or not, right? What happens is the drone goes through that particular path, analyzes each and every panel. Of course, it's a very quick, fast video, but it actually analyzes each and every panel with a thermal camera. It actually picks up the hotspots, right? And then comes back, and this is actually the prompt that you have given, right? On the right, you're just seeing a prompt, right? And it's actually saying you, okay, these are the number of hotspots that you have, and this is a report which is getting generated, right? All done in a single flight, without somebody actually going to the field, carrying a camera, doing all this exercise, coming back, and then reporting to you 2 weeks later, right? So what happens is you currently, even if you have security guards, you have your field guy over there, anything what you might imagine, right, will take longer. And you'll not even be assured of the data quality or whether you're actually getting the right information or not, right? So that's exactly what digital field officers enable, right? So very quickly, this is mostly, I won't bore you with the tech, but this is very quickly how we have built our, the stack of sorts, right? It kind of does right from gathering layer. We actually have IoT sensors, drones, and things like that. So the thing what we are doing here is basically on demand. We also trigger things with sensor-based inputs, which basically means that you can get IoT sensors to actually trigger a drone flight rather than you prompting, right? We also are building in memory, right? Which means to say that moving forward, field officers will become smarter. Digital field officers become smarter, just like how all of us become smarter with time, right? Once you know the worksite, you always call your favorite security guard, asking him, is there an intrusion in this place? The field officer or digital field officer will get even more smarter. It will start detecting things, and it will start going to those locations autonomously as it learns, right? So things become only better with time, right? And that's something that we are actually building. So what does all this mean, right? So given all of this, given if we were to enter into this era of digital field officers with drones autonomously flying and gathering intelligence, and we actually talking to it more than talking to people, right? So what does all this mean? So we have about, 300,000 kilometers of borders. We have about close to 1 million worksites globally, right? And all of it can change, right? The way we govern it can change, the way we monitor it can change, the way we actually interact with people on field can change. It's a very empowering thing for everybody involved, right? All our customers today, at least the guys who have implemented it today, are calling this more than calling their field staff, right? Even the field staff is calling this more than going and doing the work themselves, right? So everybody, I think, is benefited through this, change of actually employing digital field officers using drones and software rather than actually employing people and making them do the hard work, right? And we are all guilty of it. Personally, me, I'm very guilty of it, actually calling people up and asking them what's happening on the site. Are you there? Are you not there? Why are you not doing this? Give me that photo. Give me this photo. For a construction site, we are all guilty of it, right? I think we can live without that guilt moving forward, right? So that's mostly what I have for you here today. And this is a small set of the team. We don't have a group photograph. We are about 50 people. We're based in HSR, right? Very happy to speak to everyone here offline, right? We're a Bangalore-based company. Been around for quite some time now, right? That's me and the first, right? So of course, anybody wants to talk to me, please. You can book an appointment or you can send me an email. I'm here for the rest of the day, but that's mostly what I had for you. I didn't want to bore you guys in a morning. I wanted to keep it short, quick, and leave you guys to think about what is possible, right? But that's about it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, you can please go ahead.
Hey, hi Mughilan. It's here. Hey, yesterday there was a talk on Galaxy Eye. It means like coming up with a hybrid imaging satellites, which will also try to talk about surveillance. In case if they come up with good resolution cameras, then what value will the drones add there?
Great question. Actually, we're complementary, right? Satellites and drones, right? The biggest value for drones, right, is the fact of on-demand, nature of it. So today, if you want to do something, right, you prompt it or you pick up a drone, you can actually do it much faster. Satellites usually have a 1 day or 2 day or whatever the revolution, turnaround time, right? So that's one of the reasons when you have daily or, if you want instantaneous intelligence on the field, you would rather believe, you would want to talk to a drone of sorts. Yep.
Hi. Thiru, this side. This side.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. Thanks for the presentation. One question, since it talks about securing our borders, just wanted to understand in which sectors or different sectors you have worked with, whether it's Indian Air Force, Army, or the Navy, and what are the challenges actually Skylabs have solved for the different services?
Security, of course, we have worked from a defense standpoint, mostly on surveillance related activities, right, across some regiments. But mostly we have also done security across, for all these work sites, right? Most of our customers employ us to also secure their borders, right? Because we see a lot of thieving happening in all their work sites of sorts, right? Including railway. There's a lot of cable theft which happen in rail, right? Okay. There's a lot of cable theft happening in solar. There's a lot of physical theft that happens in these sites today. So we have solved for all of those security and surveillance use cases, other than all the productivity ones which I mentioned. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, Thiru.
Hi.
My name is Soumya. I have a technical question. How do you secure the network? Because when you have the surveillance drones, it's a hack, prone. So very difficult to secure the network, especially on the borders. Plus, you would relay the data back to your site to basically make that decision. So how do you guys do that?
So perfect. So good question, right? So mostly in the borders, it's a much more harder question to answer, right? I'll tell you the architecture today, right? So how it works today, right? So one of the things is a drone and a docking station has an RF, right? From there, it's a line connection, right? We actually have a Ether, whatever, a cable going from the dock to the cloud, right? We are doing a lot of edge computing on the box device itself, right? Which kind of helps in autonomous decision making. As much as possible, we try to make decisions at the edge, right, and not really take it back, right? With respect to hacking the drone itself, if you want to, if it's communicating of sorts, typically enterprises really don't have any sort of problems, right? Nobody hacks into drones in enterprise sites. In borders, it is a challenge, right? We have not yet encountered it, but it is a vulnerability that we are trying to solve for, right? Especially when if you can track into the RF itself, right? That's really the challenge that we have to solve for, right? Because other parts of data communication and everything else is okay. We can live without it because you can autonomously, make decisions on the edge, right? Or at least head to that direction. Yeah.
Hi. Thanks for the talk. My question is, so you mentioned multiple areas in which you work. So one is in regards to solar. There it's compared to you go over the solar panels and you are able to identify which are working, which are not working. How difficult is the compliance part, as in some mines, or monitoring how much has been excavated and whether people are following the human safety protocols, because it's very difficult to identify those portion compared to when monitoring over the solar image, like solar the array, and figuring out whether it's working or not, how difficult that part is.
Perfect. So great question, right? So for a particular mine, what is necessary is basically we do another step, which I somehow skipped, sorry for that, called photogrammetry, right? We collect overlapping images and actually create a 3-dimensional map of the work site, right? And that particular map is about 3 centimeter per pixel resolution, right? And that is both X, Y, and Z. So you'll actually get a nice 3D model of the mine, right? That 3D model of the mine is what we use for all sorts of volume computations or measurements and so on and so forth, right? So, and that's again, photogrammetry is the process. It's basically converting images into 3D point clouds, right? And once you have the 3D point cloud, you can very quickly compute volume and understand compliance and do all of that, right? Now we are chatting with an actual 3D point cloud of sorts. So we generate that for mines. I hope I answered your question, right? So.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Rishabh from Google.
Hi.
Great presentation. I just wanted to ask one thing, that one of the challenges in the forward areas, especially with the defense, is logistics and supply.
Mm-hmm.
So is that some use case which you are looking into? Coming from an experience that I was in the army for 10 years, I served there, and so I just thought, like, it is one of the challenges which we are still not able to solve for. So is that something you're looking for? If yes, then what are the main challenges or complexity you're thinking that may arise?
We definitely, I mean, over being a decade of sorts, we were approached by a bunch of hyperlocal companies, right, on this. It is possible to do. I'm not going to deny it's not possible to do. We have not yet put our eyes and mind into that at this moment, right? We of course have an experience of actually building some of these things, but we have not yet gone in that direction as of yet, right? But yeah, in the next couple of years, we will head in that direction. I think the biggest challenge, and if I have to answer your question fairly, the biggest challenge what we like to solve is basically the challenge of payload, right? I think what people kind of miss the entire thing is the fact that, okay, people think about speed, people think about access, range, but I am the opinion that if we were to carry 10, 20 kgs even for 1-2 kilometers, and you can just solve for that itself is of tremendous value, right? Because I think that, and that's the direction what we believe that is more value to be achieved, and that's actually happening, right? In adjacent sectors like in agriculture, in drones, there are actually 10 liter, 30 liter, 50 liter, spraying drones out there, right? If we were to modify that and add some intelligence on that, I think it is very possible to actually go down the path of saying, okay, can I carry 10 kgs for about 2 kilometers, right? I think that is the direction, that is the kind of vision we have for, that construct, rather than thinking about range as a bigger problem, right? That's my 2 cents. Yeah.
Last 2 questions, ladies and gentlemen. Any other questions left?
Great. Yeah.
Hi, this side.
Hi. Hi.
Myself Devesh from Kitchen 365. I'm just a bit curious about one thing you said, that the drone can take off and then can scan the entire facility and then can get you the status report, right? So I just wanted to know, when it scans and gives you like how much percentage of work has been completed compared to the expected one and everything, in the detailed analysis, how exactly you do it, like in terms of imaginary view, or you are like doing it in terms of like good analysis of the how much percentage it is completed or something, on what data parameters you are evaluating from that scan or anything?
Perfect. Great question, right? So when you talk about progress in a site, right, there are several, progress parameters, right? And our experience says that, about close to about 50-60% is visual, right? More than 50%, more than 60% is visual, right? So by visual, and I think another 20-odd% is quote unquote measurable, right? The remaining 20% you can't see or measure. It is, something which some expert has to come and actually go see, okay, is the electrical connection, is that plug put in somewhere, right? Or is it between the walls or something you can't see, right? Somebody needs to go inspect it even closer, right? And progress is also defined by plan versus actual, right? So we get plans from, our customers. We don't generate plans, right? We ask them, okay, what is your plan? What are the parameters, right? And we kind of bucket into, okay, what needs visual, what needs measurement, and what cannot be measured using a drone. Maybe somebody has to go physically going there and actually touching it, or actually, having some other equipment, right? But most of the cases than not, what we have noticed is, guys, if there are 70-80% of progress, which data parameters, which can be both visual as well as measurable, that is the one we target, and that's what most of our customers actually want. And then we update this back into their Primavera systems and whatever else construction management systems that they may have, right? And that is how we actually get plan versus actual. So most of our customers are in mines and solar parks and construction, and these are all open to air kind of places, right? And it's quite easy to determine whether progress has actually happened or not. At least 80% of progress has happened or not, right? And that's more than sufficient for people to take decisions. Yeah.
One last question. So in your visuals, we did not see the tethered drone, which is used in borders, and that is possibly a cheapest solution vis-a-vis what we saw from satellite monitoring, or
Correct.
the demand-based monitoring which you are doing
Correct.
in drone. So it is, are they dying as a dying market, tethered drones? Because we are doing projects in the tethered drone side of things. Yeah.
Yes. So tethered drones has its own. I think, I think in the drone ecosystem, I don't think anything is a dying product, right? I think we are just evolving, right? I'll give you an example of this, because when we started in 2005-06, there were like, people were talking about small drones, then they were like big drones, then they were tethered, then they're agriculture. So it's like almost like a full category of devices which are coming out, right? Unfortunately, we've been thinking about phones, computers. We have only one form factor, so we think only one thing. But it's more like an automobile, right? It's like an SUV, this, that, like, it's like different varieties of cars. There are like, I'm sure there'll be like 10, 20, 30 different categories of drones which are going to occur, right? And each one of them will have their own special niche use case. Tethered drones are, as you might know, it's a case where, it's constantly up in the air monitoring one particular site, because you'd want to do it for 24/7, right? So that's mostly about the theater drones. I don't think it's a dying market. I think it has its own unique use cases, right? Especially in both in case of police as well as in terms of border. I think people want continuous surveillance. The on-demand one, the why this entire thing is actually picking up right now is because you want to go 10 kilometers from a particular place, right? And you want that information literally on demand, right? You don't care about it 5 minutes or 1 hour later, but this instant you want to know what happened, right? So that's where these kind of devices actually help, right? I hope I answered that question.
Thank you so much, sir.
Over time. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Mughilan Thiru Ramasamy, sir. Thank you so much, sir, once again.